The Frost Knight is a version of the Eldritch Knight that uses its utility to not only bolster its own defenses, but set up the enemies for devastating cold damage from itself or from its Frost Mage ally. It's a front tank that has exceptional damage reduction on top of having some great utility. It's a really fun Frost themed build, so let's go ahead and break it down. Alright guys, it is time to talk leveling and all that fun stuff for the Frost Knight, and I do want to say before we dive into anything, race doesn't matter, pick whatever race you want, it's going to have very little effect on combat for the way this actually plays. When it comes to your actual fighting style, you are going to be a fighter starting out, big surprise there. Your fighting style, I'm going dueling because with this build, it's extremely tanky, and having a sword and board just fits the theme of how I play it. And dueling just gives you extra 2 damage for your weapon, and you can use this while wielding a shield as well, which is pretty cool. Ability points. I have 17 strength, and I know I'm going to get a comment about it. Well, why don't you just use the elixir of Hill Giant Strength? You certainly can. If you want to do that and put your strength points into something else, feel free. Some people find it to be tedious to have to farm the elixirs to do that, so I'm not building the build around that. Dexterity is low. We will mitigate the low initiative later on. And when it comes to your skill proficiencies, this is what I went with. Feel free to move this around, but definitely keep perception in my opinion. Alright, so we're going to start leveling up. Level 2 fighter, action surge, fantastic. Level 3 fighter, this is when you start to get to the fun subclasses. We are going Eldritch Knight here. This will unlock your weapon bond. You essentially make a pact with the weapon, it can't be knocked out of your hand, and if you throw it, it automatically comes back. Cantrip wise, you want your Ray of Frost as soon as possible because you are a Frost Knight. And if you are trying to make this like a Frost Death Knight, then you might as well get Bone Chill as well, but I do find Minor Illusion to be pretty useful too. Pick whatever you want. Spell wise, I go with Magic Missiles, being able to hit any target from range, that especially to kind of like knock off low HP targets, is pretty useful. And I also like taking Shield. Shield is insane. This is a really good reaction spell that will just give you +5 AC for that entire round. Expended spell slots here, go with Longstrider. The extra movement speed for you and your friends is actually huge. You could take Ice Knife if you did want another ice spell right away, but I like having Longstrider. Okay, level 4. This is when you get your first feat and spells. So spell-wise here, pick whatever you want. Chromatic Orb can be changed to be cold damage if you did want that. Thunderwave is a good spell to knock back. Pick what you want here. Your first feat, I know what you're thinking. Ability improvement? No, we're not doing that. If you're following my build, then we are actually going to be going Heavy Armor Master. This will give you +1 strength, and it reduces all non-magical damage by 3 while wearing heavy armor. This is really big, and this will stack with other stuff we'll talk about in a minute. Alright, before we level up again, I do want to showcase. You can see I only have 18 strength right now. In Act 2, if you have a Asterion in your group, you can bite an NPC called Araj at Moonrise Towers, and she will give you the Potion of Everlasting Vigor, which you can then use to get yourself to 20 strength. Alright, fighter level 5, extra attack, fantastic. And now you have fighter level 6. This is when you're going to take the alert feat. Getting +5 initiative is fantastic because you have really low dex. Normally you would need 20 dex to get +5 initiative, so that gives it to you base, which is pretty cool, and you can't be surprised. Alright, so here on out, I want you to think about the build and how you want to play, because this is going to be really important. Firstly, do you want this to be a Frost Death Knight, kind of like WoW, like the Lich King? If so, the remainder of your points will go into Wizard for 6 levels to unlock the better Necromancy stuff. That's not how I like to play, but you do have that option, so I do want to say that now. If you would prefer to be more of a Necro Frost Knight and summon a bunch of undead that are really powerful, you can certainly do that, but you will need to put the remainder 6 levels you have into necromancy. I tried it and it does work. However, keep in mind, that's not what I'm building for. Instead, I'm putting my first multi-class into Cleric. And I know you're probably wondering why. Well, first let's choose our domain. We're going to choose the War domain. This will give us a thing called a War Priest charge. I can spend a bonus action to use my weapon to attack again, which is pretty useful. And this is a way to get 3 attacks in 1 round while still maintaining higher level spell slots, since Eldritch Knights normally only get up to level 2. This gives us a few cantrips. We're going to go with all utility here, so resistance, guidance, and thaumaturgy in order to get everything we need for like outside of combat and NPC chat. Your deity, pick whatever you want. It will have very little like meaning for the game itself, so pick whatever you want here. And prepared spells, we're getting rid of Guiding Bolt. The main reason you want to go Cleric 1 level is either for Bless, if you want to be the Bless bot, or for Create Water. Using this is amazing. I can now create water and put it on my enemy, and if you pair this with the Frost Mage, that means you and the Frost Mage will automatically be doing double frost damage to the enemy right from the start of combat. It's really, really powerful. Although there is gear and other ways to do that regardless, this is just on demand. Make this guy vulnerable to cold damage, and you're good to go. Alright, from here on out, you are going to be going Wizard. Cantrip-wise, pick whatever you didn't have before. It's not really going to matter all that much. Spell-wise, get rid of all of this, because we're going to talk about spells in a minute. A lot of these spells, the benefit of being a wizard is the fact that you can use scrolls to learn spells. And there are a ton of scrolls in game you can get, so keep that in mind. So for me, Featherfall, Enhanced Sleep, I don't have those yet. Find Familiar, Ice Knife, Tasha's. Those are my picks here, and then the other spells, pick whatever you want because they're going to get replaced anyway. Alright. Your character level 9, wizard level 2, you get your subclass for your wizard. There are a couple of things you can choose. If you were paying attention earlier and I said you wanted to be the necromancy type kind of warrior, like a true death knight, you would be 6 Eldritch Knight, 6 necromancer anyway. That's not what we're doing. We're going for a very defensive utility burst damage build. So I'm doing Abjuration. This is going to give you Arcane Ward. Basically, it's a stacking shield around you that prevents damage, and then the charge is reduced by 1, and you can increase the charges by casting Abjuration spells. And almost all of your defensive spells that you have as this class are Abjuration, so it's really nice. Spell-wise here, doesn't matter because we're going to replace most of the stuff with scrolls anyway, so pick whatever you want. Hold Person, definitely get this. Really, really powerful. You could do invisibility if you needed it for like a get out of jail free card, but I also like having Misty Step as well. Although we will have a pair of boots that gives us Misty Step, you definitely want to use this. Wizard level 4, you get your another feat here. So if you are fine with your stat spread the way it is, feel free to pick any other feat. I'd say go ability improvement. With the +2 potion to strength, you're already at 20, so this would put me up to 22 strength if I wanted it. I could get my constitution a little higher to be 16. I could get my intelligence to be higher to 18 to help out with saving throws and things like that. It's going to be up to you. For the most part, majority of the spells I use are mainly for CC or for defensive stuff anyway. So you could go Constitution if you wanted that. It's up to you and what you want to do here. More damage, go Intelligence. More survival, go Constitution. You get another cantrip, pick whatever you want. Spell-wise, again, most of this stuff's going to get replaced anyway, so feel free to pick what you want. Wizard level 5. So you have to make a choice here because this is your final level. You could go 7 points right here, or 7 levels I should say, and get War Magic, meaning you can use a cantrip, and after casting the cantrip you can attack with your weapon now. This does have some nice synergy with like Ring of Elemental Infusion, the Arcane Synergy Ring, and things like that. I'm not a big fan of that playstyle. Instead, I'm going Wizard. At level 5 Wizard, you get Counterspell. And this is an Abjuration spell, which means it procs the shield. The other thing, pick whatever you want here. Haste is probably useful as well. Alright, and before we talk about gear and stuff, like as you can see, my Frost Mage is dual wielding staffs. That'll be a build for another day. But you can see I have 2 Arcane Ward charges. I just want to showcase real quick. Take a look at your spells. The cool benefit of being a wizard is the fact that you can learn spells through scrolls. This gives you so many more spells you can actually learn, like Ice Storm for example. I just learned Ice Storm. Fantastic. So taking a look at our spells, we want to make sure certain ones are on. Glyph of Warding is a really nice spell, and it's an Abjuration spell. Definitely want that. I don't need Disguise Self right now, even though it is a nice ritual spell. I don't necessarily need it. We'll go Hold Person. I don't need my Find Familiar right now. It is a ritual spell outside of combat, but I don't need it this exact second. So I'm going to take that off. And instead, I'm going to put on my Misty Step. And if you take a look at all my spells and everything like that, I do have cantrips I can mess around with. You got these cantrips from Wizard. I got my cantrips there. There's a lot of different things. Depending on how you want to play it, put on what you want. If you want to have some undead, I gave myself Animate Undead from a scroll as well. I don't want Ice Knife. I'm not going to use it all that much. I don't really use Thunderwave all that much. I'm going to take that out and put in my Counterspell. Now, taking a look at these spells, do I need Featherfall right now? No, so I'm going to take that out as well. And I could put Haste on. I could put my Ice Storm on. There's a bunch of different things you can do. So for me personally, I'm going to take off my Tasha's. Instead, I'm going to put on Haste. And then the other spell, I could put anything else on, like my Ice Storm. So I at least have a level 4 like powerful spell I could do. So real quick, I do want to showcase, so you can see 2 Arcane Ward. This will go up whenever I cast a spell that's Abjuration. My Abjuration spells, for example, is going to be Shield of Faith. And you can see if you cast this at higher levels, it doesn't do anything, so you always want this as a level 1. You can see it went up. I have 3 Arcane charges now. Take a look at your level 2 spell slots. None of my level 2 spells I have are going to be considered Abjuration, which is fine because we don't necessarily need that because our level 3s are. So Counterspell as a reaction spell, Abjuration, this will give us +3 to our charge. Glyph of Warding, which you can choose to be Frost, is considered Abjuration, so I can put that down to give me +3 to my charge. It's really nice. Basically, you use your spells for utility and CC for the most part, and as you do that, you will just periodically increase your charges. You can see spell-wise, I have the Dance Macabre. Once per long rest, you do need to go through the Sorcerer Sundries, and I already have the Necromancy of Thay Red. This will unlock this. If you want a more detailed guide about that, just Google it because it's a lot to it. And it's too long for me to explain in this video. But this is another way for me to get zombies as this build without actually going deep into the Necromancer stuff. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at my gear, because there's quite a few different gear pieces that you can use as you level up. I will start with the low level gear and make my way forward. So at low levels, your helm is going to be up to you and what you want to use. The Grimskull helm is really nice regardless of what level you're at, whether you're in Act 1 or Act 3, just because you not being able to be crit is really big. You gain resistance to fire damage as well, which is pretty cool, and you can use Hunter's Mark once per long rest. So this is just an all-around great helmet to wear. If you don't want to use that, Circle of Bones you get inside Act 2, which is nice. This will give you Animate Dead once per long rest for free. And then my undead minions have resistance to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. Because right now, you can see I have Create Undead. Or at least I thought I did. It's probably not prepared. Yeah, I don't have it prepared, but normally it's a level 3 spell. So that's a way to get it for free. You just can't upcast it. Normally you can upcast it to make better zombies. If you don't want that, and you say you want a little bit more initiative, the Fist Breaker Helm, Moonrise Towers vendor sells this. +1 bonus to spell save DC, +1 bonus to initiative, which is also nice if you want even more initiative. Circlet of Hunting, you're never going to use because you don't have Hunter's Mark or anything like that. The Hunter's Mark I have comes from the Grimskull Helm. The other really useful item, if you are a Githyanki, this is nice just because it's more saving throws. And then the last piece I would recommend is the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. Whenever you inflict a condition, you gain Arcane Synergy. And Arcane Synergy is basically damage to my attacks equal to my spellcasting modifier. Because I have 16 intelligence, that would give me +3 damage. So it's going to be up to you. Cape-wise, the Nymph Cloak is amazing. I get this at the end here in Act 3. It gives me Dominate Person, a level 5 enchantment spell that normally I would never be able to get as this class. But as you level up, one of the best cloaks you can get is Cloak of Protection. +1 saving throws and +1 AC. Really, really nice. Chest piece. So in Act 1, there's not that many great heavy chest pieces, but inside the Grimforge, you can make 2 different versions of the Adamite stuff. The heavy version, which is what you would want to use, that way it stacks with the Heavy Armor Master. All incoming damage is reduced by 2, so with that feat, it's all physical damage by 5 and all magic damage by 2. When the enemy attacks me, they're sent reeling if they hit me, and they have a -1 to their attack rolls. This thing is really, really powerful, and this will last you majority of the game. Once you get to Act 2 and you beat the final boss, you get the Reaper's Embrace. This is great because this just reduces all damage by 2 again. You get a cool ability, which is a toggle ability. If you take a look at my passives, I can turn this on and off. Right now it's off, right now it's on, and you can see when activated, I can't be moved by my will by any spell or action like that, but I do have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. And if you want to be extremely tanky to the point where it breaks the game, in Act 3, Damon sells the Armor of Persistence. I equipped it, and now you can see I have resistance to all physical attacks because it gives me Blade Ward. It reduces all damage by 2. And it gives me resistance. I got a 1d4 bonus to saving throws as well. The thing is extremely powerful. It's so good. And I can easily dye it if I want it to look a little bit better. For example, let me actually make my dyes. Here, I got this Boro blue dye. We'll use this on my chest piece to try making it look a little bit better. And it looks a little bit better. I still don't think I look very Death Knighty, but this is the best chess piece in the game if you want to be defensive. It's extremely good. The problem is I think it's too good, and on Tactician, I mean, it just breaks the game. It's so powerful. So instead, I like using the Reaper's one here. It looks cool. It also gives you a cool ability, Howl the Dead, which you can use right here. You can see it's once per short rest. It's a bonus action, counts as a cantrip. So I numb my enemies, meaning I have advantage on attack rolls against the affected enemy, which is pretty cool. And because it's a cantrip, if you did go 7 points into Fighter that I mentioned earlier, this does work with Warcaster. Glove-wise, so there's going to be a few different gloves you can wear. We're going with the Winter's Clutches. This will give you, anytime you deal cold damage, you inflict 2 turns of Encrusting Frost. Encrusting Frost enemies have disadvantage on dex saving throws, and once you get it to 7 stacks or more, they have to make a Constitution saving throw, and if they fail, they become frozen. And frozen targets, they basically, you can shatter the ice and deal double bludgeoning, thunder, or force damage, and then remove the effect. You can actually get 2 pairs of these. You can get these in Act 1, and you can get these in Act 3 by stealing them within the shop, which is really, really cool. And I'll showcase that at the end of the video if you want to see how to steal them. Boot wise, there's only 1 pair of boots I want you to use, the Nightwalkers. If you don't use these, I would say use the Hoarfrost boots right here. I mean, this just makes it so all the ice fields that are going to be around the enemies you attack aren't going to affect you, which is really powerful. I have the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation here, and I actually have 2 of these because you can get one inside the Githyanki Creche, and I will show on screen now where to get the second one. This just allows me, when I do cast a cantrip, I can add my spellcasting modifier to it. This is going to get replaced. Feel free to replace this with anything else that you want. I like having it just because occasionally when I do need to use a cantrip, it's there. But once I do, on this file, get the neck piece to get my Constitution to 23, that's what I'm going to use. And instead, I will dump all my Constitution into Intelligence once I do get that. Ring-wise, so there's quite a few different rings you can use. So in Act 1, inside the in the Goblin Camp, you have Crusher's Ring. If you kill that Goblin, he will give you plus 10 movement speed. This thing is amazing and great on any melee character. The reason I don't necessarily need that though is because I already have Longstrider as a ritual spell, so I can just cast that and give it to myself anyway. The Snowburst Ring is huge. Anytime I do cold damage, I create a circle of ice. The weapon that we use in Act 3 always does cold damage, so you'll always create this from melee hits. I'm using the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel here. This is something you can only get inside Act 3. You get it from a dead skeleton while following the genie for the legendary spear. If you read it, after I hit with a melee attack, I can cast an illusion or an enchantment spell as a bonus action. Remember that cape from earlier, Dominate Person? It's an enchantment spell. But you know what else is? Hold Person is as well. And Hold Person's crazy because if it hits the enemy and it works, guess what? That means my next hit's going to be a crit. It's really powerful. So that's why I like that. Feel free to replace that with something else if you don't like it. My bow is from Act 3, the Hellrider Longbow. This just gives me +3 to my initiative and gives me advantage on perception ability checks. So with this in combination with my alert feat, I have +8 to my initiative. Really powerful. Now it's time to talk weapons. So in Act 1, you could use a staff. I have it on my Frost Mage at the moment, the Morning Frost, but you can use this if you wanted to use it on this character. But in Act 3 from the vendor, which you can get right away, I have the Flail of Ages. This is amazing. As you can see, it is a blue weapon, but it has some really nice stuff. You can see it has Elemental Age, so when I cast this, always go the cold version. So now my weapon will do cold damage, but you can see because it's doing cold, it will actually apply chilled as well. And as you can read, chilled makes the enemy vulnerable to cold damage but resistant to fire. So this is really powerful. So this weapon in combination with the Winter's Clutches and then your Frost Mage, which I will make a build on my endgame Frost Mage, also has the Winter's Clutches on top of having the Legendary Staff and Morning Frost. Like, you stack so much cold damage on people so quick, it's unreal. It's so powerful. And then shield wise, I have Kethric's shield here. You get this from killing Kethric. This just gives me a +1 bonus to my spell DC and attack rolls. It gives me advantage on dexterity saving throw checks, which is why I like it, because it basically helps mitigate the disadvantage that the chest piece has. If you don't want to use this, the same vendor that sells this bow here sells an offhand dagger called Cold Snap. Gives me +1 bonus to my AC, and as you can see, when a creature misses me with an attack, they have to make a saving throw or they are chilled for 2 turns. So if you want to dual wield, you certainly can, and you can go with the Cold Snap, and it's pretty fun because you get so much AC as this build, especially when you use your reaction to cast your shield. Like, it's really fun to chill people that way. But I like the sword and board just for the extra spell DC and stuff like that. And one thing I did want to showcase, in case you wanted to use this with the Frost Mage as you level up, there's not that many weapons that apply cold damage. So if you use the Drake Throat Glaive, you can use Dragon Elemental weapon on a weapon on the ground. So I could like put cold damage on this two-hander, for example. And if I equip this two-hander now, you can see it has cold damage. So that's a way if you wanted to have a weapon doing cold damage as you level up with the Ice Mage and let your Ice Mage use the staff, you can. And one alternative to the Ketheric Shield, if you didn't want to use this, in Act 2, you can get the Absolute's Power, another really powerful shield. This reduces all spell damage by 1 if you're branded by the Absolute, but it also gives you the Fire Shield Chill, so I could use this once per long rest, which is really nice because I only take half damage from all fire damage, and I deal cold damage back to anyone that would normally hit me with a melee attack. So this is another great shield to have if you don't want to use Ketheric Shield, but I like Ketheric Shield. I think overall it's better at endgame. Alright, so before I attack these guys, I do want to say I'm not going to showcase this with the Frost Mage for this video. For this fight here, I'll showcase it in a separate fight in a second, because these guys are just so weak they're going to get wiped out anyway. But I do want to show that I have my Fire Shield Chill on. If you equip the other shield first, use the spell, and then switch shields, you will keep the spell effect even though the shield's not equipped anymore, which is pretty cool. So I'm coming up here. And what I'm going to do to open up, I could cast haste on myself if I wanted to. I'm not going to. I don't think it's going to be all that needed. Instead, I'm going to get these guys wet from a level 1 spell. And they're probably like, what the hell? Like, why are you attacking us? It's okay, man. It's cool. Don't worry about it. So now I'm going to come up. I can't really move any further, so I'm just going to end my turn. Alright, so back to me. They're all still wet. Normally I would have my Frost Mage open up, but because it's just me, I could now use my Glyph. And you can see this is at level 3, so I'm going to do my Glyph here as Frost. And I'm just going to leave it as a level 3. I don't think putting it as level 4 is that big of a deal. We'll put that down. And I'm just going to end my turn. Yep. Attack. And now I just did a bunch of frost damage to all of them. And that's one really fun way to open up. He missed. Alright, so now it's my turn. So you can already see, like, that guy, he died already. These other guys are all kind of low. One got knocked prone, like, and they're all still wet. So they're all going to take double damage from cold damage, which is pretty cool. So if I had my Frost Mage with me that just straight up nuke these guys, they could. Instead, I'm just going to attack this guy to showcase. I attack him. I'll crit him. Why not? Alright, he died. I'll put another ice field. But because I attacked him, because of my ring down here, where's it at? The Band of Mystic Scoundrel, I can now use a bonus action to cast a spell. So I could do like Dominate Person, for example. I could do that. I could use my Hold Person, and I can upcast it if I wanted to hit multiple people. So let's upcast it and try to get both of them at once. It's not needed, because, I mean, they were already almost dead, but I did want to showcase the potency of this build. So I was able to do that. So now they're both frozen. I can also walk up. And because I already attacked once, I still get my extra attack. So now I can attack him, and it's a guaranteed crit. Dead. And I'm out of movement, which is unfortunate. If I had haste, I'd be able to hit him from here. Because even if I go to use Action Surge, I don't think I'm going to have enough movement to get to him. So I'll just end my turn. So the whole hold person ended because he was saved, which is fine. She was not prone, had to get up to heal. And that's basically how this build works like this. You can definitely set it up to be a little bit of a different playstyle if you want to use the cantrip into your good old pow like attacks. You can certainly do that. I don't think it's needed though, but that is another way you could do that kind of build. So she's down, so I'm going to come up. Let's just attack her. She's encrusting with frost, and she's chilled, so now she's going to take double damage from my cold spells and from my ice mage, regardless of whether they are wet or not. And she's dead. Let's come over here. Let's kill you. Let me use my Action Surge. Attack him again. He's dead. Do I have enough movement? I do. And then we'll attack this guy. And that's basically how I play this build. It's definitely not as bursty per se as the Frost Mage. This is set up to be extremely defensive. Like, they haven't even hit me once. And if they did, they would take cold damage on retaliation if they did hit me. But I have Arcane Ward, so the damage is going to be reduced anyway. On top of having my chest piece reduce it. On top of having even more because I have Heavy Armor Master. So I take very little damage. Like, it's really fun because of that. Alright, so I'm going to enter turn-based mode real quick. I'm with my mage here, my Frost Mage, and I'm going to use my twin spell to cast haste on myself and on my Frost Knight. I'm going to have the Frost Knight come over, and you can see they're all fighting, which is fine. We're going to wipe out everyone because I just don't care about these guys. Eventually, I'll get my turn. Okay, so here's a scenario why I like Counterspell. So I could use Counterspell with Gale, which is fine because he has way more spell slots than I do. Or I could use it with my character. And if I use it with my character, I will get increased Arcane Ward charges. So now you can see I'm up to 6, which is pretty huge. So they're attacking him, so he's just going to cast Shield. That way he blocks the stuff. And you can see, even though I had +8 initiative, I still didn't go first on my turn. So you won't always go first, but at least I'm certainly not going last. And more than likely, I'm going to go before my wizard, which is really what I want, because I want to be able to put Create Water on all these enemies over here. So I could upcast it to be super high if I wanted. Like, look how much area that is. That's going to hit everyone if I have it as level 4, which is what I'm going to do. So let's put it like that. They're all wet. Now, normally I would follow up with Gale and have him just knock everyone down, which I'm going to do. I have a certain build of Gale to where he's using meta magic, but also won't affect me with his spells, which is really, really cool. So I'm going to come up here. So I still have my bonus action. I have my dance right here on top of my regular action. So in all out like big time combat, I would use this. So I'm going to use this now. Get my guys all set up. Let them come in. I'm going to use Action Surge. Now I can either choose to attack this woman here in front of me, or I could use some spells. Like I could use Ice Storm. Or if I wanted to CC all these people, I could CC more people. You can see it goes up to 3 people. I'm going to take a look at the ratings and what they're all at. I am a big fan of Glyph of Ward and Cold because it just gives me even more arcane charges. So we're going to do this up there. Oh, I don't have enough movement, really. Unfortunate. Well, I guess we're going to have to do it down here. On top of all these guys that are considered good. Or neutral, I should say. But look at that. I'm up to 9 arcane ward charges. 9, guys. That means my next attack, if I get hit, it's going to be reduced by 9 on top of all the other modifiers that I have. Absolutely insane. If they even hit me, because right now I'm at 25 AC. And you can see they're still wet because it lasts for 3 turns. Well, some of them are wet. This guy isn't. And she's dead. Now, the zombies that you summon with that, you can't actually control, which is okay. Alright, so now let's do some big time damage, okay? First off, I want to use my Arcane Battery so I don't use a spell slot. Good, my 6th level spell. Let's get our Ice Storm as a 6th level spell. And let's just wipe out some people. I want to try keeping some guys alive to showcase some other stuff, but so we'll do it like this. And you can just see, I mean, I did so much damage of Gale because they were wet. On top of that, insane. And I didn't even use Meta Magic. I could have used Meta Magic with it if I wanted to. So let's go ahead and use Meta Magic to make this a quicken spell. And hit all of them. And you can see, like, it just does so much damage. What the heck is this one little person gonna do? Like, I feel bad for this guy. I really wanted to showcase the damage with Encrusting Frost, but I kill things too quickly. Like, she's already chilled, which is crazy because that means I'm just doing double damage of my frost stuff. But that's basically how the build works. Like, as the Frost Knight, I go in and it's my job to get the enemy wet or to instantly start putting the chilling effect from my weapon on enemies. That way enemies all get vulnerable to cold damage. That way my Ice Mage can come up and just start wiping things out hardcore. And that's the build. I'm sure you could build it for way more burst, and you certainly can. There's some really nice two-handed weapons you can use later on if you wanted to build it that way. But that's not what this build was meant for. This was meant to be a build to really pair well with the Frost Mage, and that's why I really like it. If you would like to see other builds, feel free to comment down below, but this is how I built it. And if you would build it a different way, I would love to hear why and how you would do it. I'm Ronan. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. And the dual wield Frost Mage endgame build will be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. Bye bye.